Hey everybody, welcome to GeekyKOOL presents Geeky Cinephiles. I am Larry the Professor, and this is our good friend Joe over here, Dr. Phil.
Howdy. Yeah. Not
Yeah, the
Dr. Phil.
doctor the doctor's in the house.
Doctor's in the house.
It kind of reminds me of oh my gosh. Spies Like Us, where they are pretending to be doctors and they all end up in that tent together. Doctor, and doctor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good one, too.
Yeah, it is. It is a good one. Well, today, boys and girls, and ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about another movie from 1979. Last week, we talked about the comedy Meatballs from 1979. This time, we're going in a very different direction with the movie Alien. This science fiction horror movie took the world by storm, and of course, numerous sequels since the original one. But we're going to talk a little bit. Does this movie hold up? Does this movie scare people still? What is the deal with the movie Alien? Ripley Scott directed, and we'll let Joe kick us off here, telling us about his impressions of Alien.
Alien, man. Well, I was encouraged by a coworker that I should watch it after I'd mentioned that I hadn't seen it. It was incredible. It was scary. It
Mm-hmm.
was clever. Um, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. They did. I think felt like they did a good job of moving slowly in the beginning and building up intensity, which really good. It wasn't too long. It wasn't drawn out. It wasn't silly. It was really really good.
Yeah, I've seen this movie numerous times. It's part of my Halloween watching ritual to
Yeah.
include Alien because of all the Aliens movies, it is definitely the most scary. It's I tell people to compare Aliens. Alien is a horror movie set in space. Aliens is a sci-fi movie with horror aspects because
Okay.
they have a totally different feel. The
Okay.
second one's very sci-fi focused, very sci-fi military focused. In fact,
Oh well, now I gotta go watch that one.
oh yeah, you do need to see that one. Cameron directed that one, and along
Okay.
with of course Terminator 2. He directed. James Cameron directed Aliens. So, but yeah, I'm glad you got to see it because this is definitely a classic.
Oh yeah.
It I remember the first time I watched this movie being kind of freaked out with it. It was
Yeah.
cool. It has a Hitchcock sort of S feel. Like when you mentioned it went slow, it built
Sure.
up. You didn't see the alien right away. In fact,
Right.
you get to see where the alien comes from. You see versions of the alien with the face hugger and some other stuff. The
The
But
baby
you don't
alien.
actually see what the thing that hunts you at the end is until
Yeah.
you know at least 3/4 of the way in the movie. So yeah, so it sets up a lot of mythology in this movie that's used in later movies, such as the alien eggs opening up and that alien ship being there. They even talked. I thought it was a great. Because I don't know if I ever noticed that before. The point where they're in the alien ship and they're
Yeah.
discovering it, they notice some of the bones and they're like, oh, this one has his chest broken somehow.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I don't know if I'd really caught that before. I'm like, oh, wow. Oh, yeah, it's definitely telling you ahead of time, this is what's going to happen. Be
Yeah. Yeah.
prepared. And then when it
Yeah.
happens, you're like, oh my gosh, it's bursting out of his chest.
Was that an actual statue or was that an actual uh, dead alien?
Um, well, it wasn't a real dead alien.
Well, no, but in terms
But
in terms of the movie.
they do have statues in there, and then they also do have alien bones in there.
Okay, because that was a big alien.
It is. When you see Prometheus, which is a prequel to Alien,
Okay.
It kind of explains a little bit about that, even though I don't love all the explanations of Prometheus.
Right.
The first two are by far my favorite. The third one I liked. And after that, they got kind of weird. Then they did this Alien versus Predator thing, which
Predator.
is
Yeah.
kind of cool, but it's just not the same.
I never saw that
So
one.
anyway, but yeah, the what do you think about the whole part of the ship that has the eggs? And then they even talk about when they move their hand below it, that it changes in the pressure. It's like it's a fine mist, and the pressure changes as I move my hand down.
Yeah. It was scary. It was.
Yeah,
It was
what's going to
gross. It
happen
was.
here? And
Yeah.
and then you got all these eggs there. What it reminds me of, I don't know if you've ever seen um, a cabbage grown like that, where they're harvesting cabbage on cabbage farms. They look like alien pods like that.
Really.
Yeah, yeah. I'm always scared to try to go into those because I'm like, nah, nope, nope.
Yeah.
I'm staying away from those. Don't drop down in there because.
Yeah.
And if one opens, you run. And you don't want to jump out at you.
You get the face hugger. The
Yeah,
face hugger that
exactly.
came out of that thing was gross. I mean, and
It
gross
was.
in terms of like I was scared. You know.
Well, and then it sucks onto your face. It
Mhm.
sticks a cord down your throat to offshoot your breathing while it's implanting an egg in you and wraps around your throat. If you cut it, its blood is acid.
Yeah. That was
Wasn't that wild when the
scary.
acid dropped through and went
Oh yeah.
floors down?
Yeah. Yeah. It was crazy.
Yeah.
That's what you do. This is a serious. This is a serious thing too.
Yeah, this is not just some little kitty thing. This is a pretty intense thing there.
Yeah. Great special effects.
Yeah,
You know, a lot. This is all before CGI and stuff like
right.
that. So you couldn't do any of this stuff. I mean, you could do this stuff today with what they have, but they did it all themselves
Practical effects.
45 years
Yeah,
ago. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty incredible for what they're able to do back then. Yeah.
Yeah. I,
Um,
yeah, I was scared.
he
Yeah.
did his job then.
Yeah, you're right. I think I'd seen the alien coming out of the stomach. I think I'd seen that shot as a clip somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
But when I saw it again, I was like, oh yeah, okay. I
Well, it's
remember
not
that.
even the stomach, it's higher up, it's in the chest.
Yeah, in the
You think
chest.
it's the stomach at first, like he's going to throw up, and then it starts pounding out of his chest and breaks his chest bone as it comes out.
Yeah, the chest buster.
Yeah, a chest buster, exactly.
Ugh.
I don't know if you've seen Spaceballs, but they do spoof that in the restaurant scene in Spaceballs,
Oh,
where one of the characters from, I think it's from Aliens, is sitting in the restaurant with them, and all suddenly he goes, "Oh no, not again!" And things are popping up, and then they're like, what's he having?
yeah,
We'll
yeah. I
take
remember.
we'll take the other. Yeah, check please.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, the thing, which was 84, I think, maybe. That kind of steals from it. You know,
Yeah,
the alien coming through, you know, your torso. They did some of
yep,
that.
they did. It's not
Yeah,
an uncommon theme, but it was done very graphically in Alien, and then of course in The Thing, which is another amazing movie.
yeah, very
The
good.
Thing from 1984. Yeah.
Yeah, was it 84? Yeah.
So
Did you know that Spielberg was originally considered to direct it?
it would have been a very different feel for Spielberg, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because Spielberg kind of almost had a really kind of family friendly, kind of pushed some of the things on edge with some of the sci-fi stuff and the
right.
aliens, but definitely a very, very different feel than E.T.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I couldn't even imagine this would have been as good had he done it. It probably
No.
would have ended up like a kids movie.
Did you know that Ridley Scott, who's directing it, and usually you've got a different cameraman working than the director. You got the director, and then you got a cameraman, and usually maybe multiple cameramen working with the director.
Yeah.
Ridley Scott actually filmed 80% of the movie on a handheld recorder from up here. Of course, that was the 80s where they were the big old battery pack things that were on
Yeah.
your back. I mean, those weren't tiny things, but he did that. 80% of the shots were done that way by him.
Oh wow, that had to
Yeah.
have been a heavy camera. Yeah, that was. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So it gives you a little bit of that feel of like Blair Witch Project at times where you're kind of zooming in, but you don't feel all the shakiness. And that's because
Right.
those cameras are pretty steady. But you do get some of that, a little bit of that feel with it that, like, man, it's really up and close.
Yeah.
Here we go. Here we go. Our buddy Keith here. Keith, I agree with you. Very interesting film and a great cast. Yeah, this has an amazing cast, and it's such a cool movie. I personally love this movie, so I
Yeah.
have to say that it's one of my all time favorite. It's my all time favorite horror movie, to be honest. So, but I
Yeah.
love how it plays, and of course you've got star of the show being Sigourney Weaver, but you also have Tom Skerritt, John Hurt, which is amazing in this.
Yeah.
Veronica Cartwright, and boy, you feel for her character, especially when the alien pops up behind her.
Oh yeah.
Harry Dean Stanton was great in this. Ian Holm is Ash, the android.
Oh yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Yapet Kotto as Parker. It's just a great cast in this movie. So, in fact, I read a little bit of trivia that Ridley Scott had asked Ian Holm, who was Ash, to intentionally try to aggravate Sigourney Weaver off the set, so it would play to their chemistry of not liking each other on the set better.
Oh wow.
And so he did that, and he said he regretted it because he loves her as a person and an actress, and so he always
Yeah.
felt bad about being kind of rude to her, trying to get her to be more hateful to him on screen.
Wow. That's a director going for everything, right?
He was, yeah,
I mean, this was his second film, and
right,
he goes on to direct Blade Runner, Thelma
right.
Louise, and Gladiator, Black Hawk Down. I mean, he ends up grading some of the best movies out there. He's
Right.
very skilled director. He's still directing, like
He is,
45 years later.
and that's wonderful. Do what you love, right?
Yeah,
Do
yeah,
what you love there.
yeah.
So thanks, Keith, for the comment. I agree with you, my friend, and you're always welcome. Let me know if you ever want to come on. But yeah, so I found I loved how they use some of the technology that we assume is going to be used in space travel, such as the cryogenic pods to cause you to sleep and wake up.
Yeah.
And then it was interesting because it starts off really slow with the ship just moving, and then all of a sudden a light flashes, and then eventually everybody gets up. But you go probably a good 3 minutes without seeing anybody in the cast, with just showing the ship going, which is a great visual. But I'm wondering how many people in the theater went, "What did I get into?" Because man, this is slow. Man, this is whatever. But that's a great scene there.
An hour later, they were holding on to their seat. Like,
exactly. It's like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Yeah. I loved the fact that they had a protocol when they were on the planet that if somebody got contaminated with something, you didn't let them in the ship. Yeah. And we know why.
Yes. And if they would have followed Ripley's instructions, then there wouldn't have been a movie.
Oh, they would have blown, but it probably would have killed the other two also.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, blown them out the spaceship.
Yeah, that was really interesting. Mother was an interesting addition. Was that kind of like HAL in Space Odyssey, where
it is, but it's not thinking. It's actually a computer program that is programmed and ran by the corporation,
the company,
by the company. And so the company puts all the stuff out there. So it is a computer program, kind of like HAL, but it's not sentient like Hal was.
Yeah.
It does borrow some stuff from 2001: A Space Odyssey
Does
on
it?
how some of the space travel happens, some of the visual effects with the ship, but does an amazing job of it. So, but yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that was impressive. And Mother, so it's interesting that concept. You think in 1979, they're in space for years because they're traveling to outer galaxies, and
yep,
the idea of Mother, a mother computer, was not that far off from a futuristic, idea.
right, right, exactly. Well, you have to have something watching over you while everybody sleeps.
Yeah.
So you have this program that is AI, to the best of our understanding of it, to be able to watch out, see what's going on, to give direction on what needs to happen to the captain, waking up the captain,
Hmm.
and doing all that. Yeah, and then I loved how they talked about how Ash is added at the last minute. There was somebody else that was going to be the medical guy, and they added Ash, who's an android who works clearly is trying to function in the proper confines with the company.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you know that was a subplot? That him being an android was a subplot that one of the writers wasn't really a fan of. He thought it was unnecessary. But I guess it ended up becoming a decent part of that.
Right,
It explains a lot of ways that they can't get out of what they're trying to do.
right, right.
Yeah,
Well, in the second one, it's not an android that plays kind of that role; it's a different one. But yeah, it's a.
okay. Okay.
But yes, yeah. Let's see. I of course thoroughly love this movie. I own it on digital, but us see what everybody else says. So the audience rating on Google says 4.6 out of 5.
Okay.
Rotten Tomatoes, very interestingly, the tomato meter, which is the critics, and the popcorn meter are only a point of different. 93% for the tomato meter, 94% for the popcorn meter.
Wow.
So critics and and viewers loved it both.
Yeah. Wow.
You have IMDb gives it an 8.5 out of 10, which is pretty darn good. Letterbox has a 4.3 out of 5,
Yeah, those
and
are all good.
so yeah, um, so it looks like people really like this movie.
Yeah. The
So that's good.
writer, yeah, the writer drew inspiration from, science fiction and horror.
Yeah, yeah,
He said, "I didn't steal it from anybody. I stole it from everybody." He said,
right.
just using the thing from Another World from 1951 and
Yep,
Forbidden Planet, another movie before that. They
yep.
pitched it. They pitched it as Jaws in space. That's how they
Right,
sold.
right. Which makes sense because Jaws was so big, and it was just out. In fact, we have the 50th anniversary of Jaws happening right now. So
Yeah. Wow.
yeah.
I read the book. Book was fantastic. We're not talking about Jaws though. But the movie, yeah, maybe we can do a review on Jaws.
we definitely can. In
Yeah.
fact, there's one going to be written up for Geeky Cool. One of our other writers is going to write a review. They watched all the movies over the weekend, and they're going to write a review and give some of their conspiracy theories on it. So,
Interesting.
the movie did win several awards, including an Academy Award for Best Visual Effects, several Saturn Awards, Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Presentation for sci-fi movie, Best Director. So there's just been tons of awards of the time for it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty impressive. And box office success. It was made for 8 million, I think.
11 million.
11 million. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And at this point worldwide, it's gained 102 million. So
yeah. So it did pretty well. It well made back its money.
yeah. So do you think the alien was animatronic, or do you think it was a person inside?
There is a person who plays it, but I think there's some of both.
Yeah, yeah,
That's my understanding. They used some animatronics with it, but there was a person inside the outfit.
yeah.
So
It was scary when he opens one mouth and then opens another mouth.
yeah, that second mouth coming out.
Oof.
So
Yeah.
so back in the day, I worked in mental health, and I'll tell a quick mental health story here. Worked in mental health with somebody with a major mental health disability, and I had made this person upset with me when I was working with them. I was a caseworker, case manager. I worked out in the field with them. Basically, my job was to help provide services for them so they could stay at home and not go into some sort of facility. That was my job. And so I made them mad because I was telling the doctor how this person had abused their medication because I came across what they'd done. We talked about it, and they were mad at me.
Yeah.
And their teeth didn't fit quite well in their mouth because they were on Medicaid.
Yeah.
And she was having a lot of delusions and voices. And so she just starts yelling at me. But she can only yell for about 5 seconds at a time, and her teeth would
Yeah.
start to slip out. And she'd suck them back in and keep yelling. And this happened several times. And I have this vision of the alien mother coming out with her teeth coming at me like that. Yeah.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
scary.
Yeah. Oh,
Anyway,
jeez.
that's neither here nor there. Part of the movie. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely it definitely is done well. It's held up over time, in my opinion. Not only
Yeah.
with the special effects, the story wise, it's still scary. I know what's going to happen. It
Right.
still makes me jump out of my seat sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, and the
So
way they did a great job of those the spaceship sets too. Like it looked like the
yeah,
spaceship looked like it was gigantic.
it
Like
did.
they made it dark and shadowy, and yeah,
Which you're going to have in space, right? And especially if you're having power scenes.
yeah,
Um, Piece of trivia. So, and Ripley at one point gets out of her outerwear and goes down into her top and underwear as she's getting ready to go into the pod. She thinks she's going to be able to, go and cut cryo freeze and be able to
leave it
escape
off.
because they've
Yeah.
blown up the spaceship and she's in the little pod.
Mhm.
She's getting ready to get in. She strips down. Originally, the story had it that she was going to get naked in that scene,
Hmm.
but the ratings people came in and said if you did that, they were more likely going to give it an X rating,
Oh,
and they
wow.
did not want to do that. And then so Ripley or Ridley Scott said, "Okay, fine." And then he put her in the tiniest pair of little panties she could have. If you notice, her panties are like really
Yeah.
small there,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that was why
Yeah.
was nowadays to be a thong or whatever, but back then those were kind of the tiniest panties you could put her in. And so that they put her in that and basically said, you know, without fully stripping her down, this actually shows the vulnerability that she's trying to do this, and yet then she's so vulnerable, but then she's going to still have to fight her monster, which was a literal monster.
Right.
So, and I do love how she's doing that, and then she kind of sneaks over to the little corner thing and is hiding, and then she puts on
Yeah.
the air suit, and then of course blows it out the airlock there of
Yeah.
her shuttle, which I thought was fantastic. I
Oh
loved
yeah.
how it kind of held on.
I thought that scene was done. I thought the movie was done when she was taking her clothes off. I thought,
Yeah,
wow,
right.
okay,
Yeah, you're like, okay, all right. And then
yeah,
it wasn't done.
yeah, yeah. I don't know if the alien sleeping or something, or
I think so. It had kind
it
of
seemed
gone
like it
up
moved.
into the thing, and of course, it waits to kind of attack at a prime time. And
Yeah,
so, yeah, I don't know if it's sleeping or what, but yeah, it's interesting that it made it to the ship. But yeah,
yeah. It's just kind of laying in there.
it is kind of up in kind of the rafters where nobody was
Yeah.
looking. Yeah, and then I
So
love the fact that she put the cat in
yeah,
a pod of its own. It's like
yeah. I thought at some point an alien was going to pop out of the cat's stomach. I thought it was going to have taken over the cat.
that would be an interesting alien, right?
That's
Yeah,
alien for
yeah.
it. Originally, the movie was called Star Beast.
I can see that.
But they use the word alien so many times in the script, they changed it to alien.
And Alien fits perfectly with it. It is a perfect fit for it.
Yeah. It's crazy that I think they use miniatures when they get the alien transmission and they stop. Go check it out. I think they use miniatures to I think is what I read, to demonstrate the size of that alien ship.
Right.
Or minimized something. It was, but it made it look so big, and that made you think that it was. And I guess the signal that the alien sent, the transmission that they sent out, wasn't a call for help. It was a warning.
Right.
Oh, don't go there.
Right. But that's what they wanted. Once they found out what it was a call for don't come here. This is what we have. And then the company was wanting the creature to be able to reproduce, to go, because they're having basically the companies also run worlds and they run armies. And so they wanted it for their armies to be able to take out the opposing company's armies.
Oh, wow.
And basically drop them on a planet that's not theirs and let those aliens go through and just kill all their army people.
Dang.
But the problem is, you think you're going to control that thing?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, there's no way they could.
Right. But of course they think they can because, well, big companies, that's what they always think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was probably a reference to something, maybe a movie studio head, or head of a corporation. Sure.
That's probably true.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays corporations have even more power than they did in the late 70s, early 80s. So
yeah. So in 2002, it was deemed culturally, historical, and aesthetically significant by the Library of Congress, and was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry.
Which is interesting because not very many sci-fi nor horror movies get put into that. And this one is both, and it gets put in there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then Empire named it its 33rd best movie of all time.
I can see that. I would agree that it's on that top list. I don't know where I would rank it, but it's an amazing movie. So yeah, I definitely, like I said, it's my favorite pure horror movie. Now, if you're going Hitchcock, I've got some other Hitchcock movies that I put ahead of it. But if you're going purely that style of horror, then yeah, it goes on the top of my list. So
yeah, it's pretty damn good. Now I really am interested to see the others.
You need to see at least the second one, and I would say the third one is good also. The fourth one is kind of a weird thing. You can definitely watch it, and you put some sort of weird alien creature in a movie. It's sci-fi-ish. I'm probably going to see it and like it somewhat, but as far as story-wise, it's not nearly as good as the first three. And of course, the third one is not nearly as good as the first two. First two are both amazing for very different reasons.
Yeah. It's interesting, too, that it was really Scott's production, but then he didn't do the second one. But then
you're right.
Later, right?
No, I agree. I don't know what he was doing at that point or why they decided to go a different direction. Now, James Cameron is an amazing director.
Oh, yeah.
And at that time, he was having just great hit after hit. And Aliens is a big hit. So it did very well for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to go watch them now. A couple of the actors. So Brett, Harry Dean Stanton, his first words to Ridley Scott was, "I don't like sci-fi or monster movies." And I guess Scott was amused and convinced him to take the role. And of course, Sigourney Weaver, that was her big break. She was in one movie before that, but relative unknown.
Wasn't she in? I think I've read this before. I may be wrong. I think she was on Broadway beforehand at some point.
Yeah, she was. She was. She went back to Broadway too.
Yeah, I knew she did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all right, Joe. Let's wrap it up here and let our people have a little break. But first, give me what letter grade do you give this movie?
I'm giving it an A minus.
All right, an A minus. That's pretty good. That's
Yeah,
especially I don't know if you've given an A to anything we've talked
I don't
about
know
so
if I
far.
have. Yeah,
So
yeah, it
yeah,
was
so
scary. It was
that's great.
scary. It kept my attention. It was horror, sci-fi.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was
yeah.
everything was cool about it.
Yeah, I give this movie a straight up A. I just love everything about it. Like I said, it's on my watch list yearly at least. And I watched it, I don't know, 3 months ago. I just was in a mood that I put on one and two and just
Yeah.
watched them kind of back to back because I'm like, okay, I need some Alien. Yeah. So
Need some
oh,
alien in your system, but not
I
that kind
do,
of.
but
All right.
I don't want it to burst through my chest. That's I'm out on that. I know what it was. There's an aliens role playing game that
Okay.
one of my friends did a session on. We played a session of it. It was a ton of fun, and
Wow.
it didn't have the xenomorph, which is what the creature is called. At least later on, they're called a xenomorph.
Okay.
Um, so it was not in our game. We didn't play with that creature as one of the aliens. There were other aliens, but
Right.
it was a lot of fun, which got me thinking. Oh, I need to go back and watch these movies. That's what it was. But yeah,
Dang, that's cool.
yeah. All right, everybody. Well, that's all for our review for today. This episode of Geeky Cinephiles. We'll be back next week, and we'll either check out another movie or give you another great list. But look for that information for next Monday night, and we will see you again. Stay geeky.